رمضان أقبل بعد طول غيابي ففرحت فيه مهنئا أحبابي خير الشهور به النفوس تعلقت واستسلمت للخالق الوهاب.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to another Ramadan Recital Reminder, and it is Ramadan Recital Reminder 9 of our series for Ramadan, which is Syncing with the Qur'an. And we are trying to sync with the Qur'an, trying to keep it very hip and now, connecting with the Qur'an, refreshing, updating our apps, trying to get the best form. We've picked up many faults and bugs as we've been going through the year. We sync with the Quran, it corrects all those mistakes that we've picked up, it irons out all our faults, it deletes any files that we've just accumulated for no reason. The sins we've accumulated, it deletes them. No more storage space for good deeds, so we get no more sins, or shall we say this person can carry no more sins. So in a way, with this Ramadan, flushes all that out. Not saying that we leave some space for more sins as we progress into the new year after Ramadan. What I'm referring to there is that at least we've got not much baggage to carry. We finished off with mentioning the start of this para. As you know, we're still on Surah Al-A'raf, and we had a discussion as to who is being referred to in the A'raf. قال الملأ الذين استكبروا من قومه لنخرجنك يا شعيب والذين آمنوا معك من قريتنا أو لتعودن في ملتنا قال أولو كنا كارهين. And the Mala, and this obviously we'll see that this the name قال الملأ is referring to the leaders here, those people who are in charge of societies or in charge of communities, the kind of standard community leader. الذين استكبروا من قومه, those who consider themselves arrogant from the people, because normally when people are leaders, sadly, power gets to people's minds, it gets to people's hearts, and when people are put in positions of authority over other people, then sadly people commit the worst sin that they can commit, which is oppression, and they start to oppress people. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in charge over them and over everybody, and He does not choose oppression as a way forward. So oppression is not the correct way. So they say out of arrogance from the people, لَنُخْرِجَنَّكَ, we're going to exile you. Who we're going to exile? Ya Shu'aib, or Shu'aib alayhi salatu wasalam. We're going to exile you, and those people who believe with you, مِنْ قَرْيَتِنَا, from our town, from our city, or you return back to our way of life, meaning you return to our way of life. So you got two choices. You either are exiled or you come back to the world that you live in. And we see this as well when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was taken to Waraq ibn Nawfal, and it was mentioned to him that soon you will be exiled by your people, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was somewhat dismayed at this and is quite shocked, to be honest, when he said, what, my people will exile me? And it was informed that, look, any person who brings the sort of information that you're bringing, always it results in exile. And we see the same case here, when you can't deal with a problem, even though we talk about freedom of speech and be able to express your views or whatever. As soon as somebody is saying something which goes against what these people consider as their values or their way, then they sort of say, well, we're not having this, sorry, you're going to have to move on. So it's some kind of a false way of life that they're claiming. قال أولو كنا كارهين, even though we dislike what we're doing, this we wouldn't want to come back to this way at all. So here you can see this sort of attack on Shu'aib alayhi salatu wasalam being able to practice his religion as he sees fit. وقال, we find out as well later on the same page, وقال الملأ الذين كفروا من قومه لئن اتبعتم شعيبا إنكم إذا لخاسرون. And also then the leaders, because the leaders are the ones who got most to lose. We see that in the Siratul Khatim al-Nabiyyin, which whilst I mention that is available on our YouTube channel, which talks about the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ from before his arrival, well into, we're currently recording still at the studio, and we've reached the point where the Muslim community has grown to about the size of 40 men, and we have the likes of Sayyidina Hamza and Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhuma joining this new religion according to the Arabs who did not experience something like this before. So you can catch that series as well on our YouTube channel, which talks about this in great detail. وقال الملأ الذين كفروا من قومه لئن اتبعتم شعيبا إنكم إذا لخاسرون. And the Mala, the leaders of those who disbelieve from his people, said that if you were to follow Shu'aib alayhi salatu wasalam, then indeed you will be from the losers. So they're trying to put people off because they've got the most. They're the ones who are going to lose the most. At the moment, the people are in slavery to them. They choose their way of life, which puts them at the top, because they've put this structure in place, this way of life in place, and this way of life has made them rise to the top. Now that they're at the top, they need this way of life in order to keep people in order, in order to keep people in the system. And what Shu'aib alayhi salatu wasalam was doing was challenging the system and said, well, no, there's no need for that. You are free from these people. You're not slaves of these people. You're not slaves of the system. You are only slaves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they had to deter people. They had to put people off, and this was one way of putting people off. فَأَخَذَتْهُمُ الرَّجْفَةُ فَأَصْبَحُوا فِي دَارِهِمْ جَاثِمِينَ. So the rajfa, the shake took hold of them, and they became in the morning jathimin, lying on their faces. الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا شُعَيْبًا كَأَن لَّمْ يَغْنَوْا فِيهَا الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا شُعَيْبًا كَانُوا هُمُ الْخَاسِرِينَ. And those who had denied Shu'aib alayhi salatu wasalam, it was as though they had never existed. Those who denied Shu'aib alayhi salatu wasalam, they were the ones who were the losers. So even though they were making the point that you will be the losers, the actual losers became them. And we see the same taunts and threats made to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that you will be the losers and those who follow you will be the losers. Yes, in the immediate time frame, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam suffered, the Muslims suffered, but we should look beyond the immediate. We have to look at the bigger picture, so to speak, and we have to look at things in a more long term. The problem that we have is that A, we don't have patience, and B, we want the world to work on our timetable. So A, when things don't happen as fast enough as we want them to happen, or B, they don't happen when we want them to happen, then we become dismayed, we despair, we lose heart, and that's not what a Muslim's way of life is. A Muslim way of life is to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to accept, to hand their affairs over to him and let him deal with them as he sees fit at his timetable. So you can see that these people were challenging the Anbiya, and this is nothing new. This has always happened, that whenever the message came, it was being challenged, and we see further discussions. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا فِي قَرْيَةٍ مِّن نَبِيٍّ إِلَّا أَخَذْنَا أَهْلَهَا بِالْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَضَّرَّؤُونَ. And we have never sent any messengers, or here in this case prophets, to a city, a town, a dwelling place, a populated area, except that we have taken its people in adversity and in calamity. Why? In order that they may be humbled. ثُمَّ بَدَّلْنَا مَكَانَ السَّيِّئَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ حَتَّى عَفَوْا. And then we changed. In place of wrong, we gave good, until they afaw waqalu, they pardoned, and they said, waqalu kad massa aba'ana darra, or indeed has afflicted our forefathers pain, and also wasara, affluence and happiness and prosperity. فَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بَغْتَةً. And then we take them to task all of a sudden, وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ, whilst they do not know. So sometimes when we go through difficulties, and we have problems in our lives, it could be problems in our marriages rather, it could be problems with our children, it could be financial problems, it could be problems due to our health, it could be problems due to outside of our family, it could be house problems, car problems, work problems, anything. We find that there's always some problem somewhere that we're having to deal with, and these bring us down, and we fall into despair. The purpose is here so that Allah is humbling us, to say that, look, you are weak, you are pathetic, you got nothing, you put yourself on such a mantle, you put yourself so high, you turn away from me as though you have no need from me, you live your life contrary to my instructions. And then when I place a burden upon you, then you're in tears, crying in despair, and then you don't know what to do, and all you do is you fall into depression or you fall into sadness, and you're wandering from one place or another. You're looking for an escape route, and this is when you go towards escapism. So then you need to have a wedding to go to so you can let yourself go, as the phrase goes. You want to go out, you want to go to a party, you want to go clubbing, whatever, in order to kind of let yourself out and escape. What? Escape what? Escape your own life. You hear that nowadays, don't you? When people say, I need to get away. Get away from what? Get away from my problems. What does that mean? Get away from your problems. What you mean by you going away, your problems would stay? What are they? Are they like kind of like little bags or something? That you say, okay, I'm going to put that problem there, and I'm going to put that problem there, and leave it, and I'm off now. Okay, see you later, problems. And those problems, they say, all right, we'll still be here when you come back, which they will be. But not only that, those problems don't disappear. All you've done is stuck your head in the sand. Because you haven't dealt with those problems. Those problems are going to be there. And what normally happens when you don't deal with something? Let's give another analogy. When you don't mow the lawn, do you think the grass just decides, oh, hold on a second here, guys. Grass meeting. Look, I don't think this guy's going to mow us, you know. You don't think so? No, no, no. As the grass talk to each other. So what do you think we should do? I think we should eat each other. What? I think if we all eat each other, then we'll all be smaller. Then we don't need him to mow us, do we? Good call. So the grass all ate each other. It doesn't happen like that, does it? The problems don't just disappear. They just vaporize. The problems are there. And what you've done by delaying it is you made the problem worse. And it's not as if you've dealt with the problem will still be there. It's a case, and this is what we do, is we, instead of taking the message which is in the problem, and the message which is in the problem is to deal with it. That's what the message is to deal with it, is to try to take on board what it is. And we know we can't deal with it. We know that. So what does it do? Is yadarra'un, is so that we are humbled by this, we accept this, we're harmed by it, so then we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. That's what's supposed to happen. But we do, don't we? You know, whenever we face difficulty, we're off to the masjid. Whenever we face difficulty, we're tearing musallas. Whenever we face difficulty, but as soon as Allah subhanahu removes that burden away from us, then we've forgotten Allah. Then we want to party and celebrate that, this has happened, whatever. And during that party, during that celebration, we're doing all the things which Allah subhanahu has forbidden us from. Like, for instance, now we're in Ramadan. So in Ramadan, we're fasting, we're working hard, we're getting up at night, we're praying, and we're spiritually cleaning ourselves. We're getting better and better. We're asking forgiveness from Allah for all the bad things we've done through the year. We're asking Him to accept our efforts. We're asking Him to add and increase and multiply our efforts. And we're doing all this with all this effort, with a great effort. And what happens? Then as soon as Eid day comes, never mind as soon as Eid day comes, as soon as it's Eid night, we're already involved in activities which we shouldn't be involved in. The women are preparing, the boys are preparing, so the lad's kept his beard all through Ramadan, and on Eid night, he knows there's no Tarawih, there's nobody in Isha Salah at all, because they've already found out at Maghrib time that it's Eid tomorrow, so nobody's available. What's the point now? There's no Tarawih. Well, hold on a second, Isha is Fard. Whereas Tarawih is Sunnah Muakkada, but still people kind of misunderstand. And then the boys are there, shaving, queuing outside the barbers. The barbers are open till 1, 2 in the morning because people want to have their hair cut as late as possible. Why? Because then it's more fresh rather than cutting it the day before when already a bit of stubble's coming back now. So their queues are there and beard is removed, or whatever little bit of beard that was there. The ladies are there, sat in front of mirrors and pampering and whatever. And then the type of clothes that people are wearing, the music, the type of food people are eating, all the rules of the Sharia completely thrown out the window. So it didn't take long for Shaitan, once he was freed, to put the seeds of doubt and put the seeds of confusion amongst the hearts of the people. ولو أن أهل القرى آمنوا واتقوا لفتحنا عليهم بركات من السماء والأرض ولكن كذبوا فأخذناهم بما كانوا يكسبون. However, if the people of these cities and dwelling places, if they believed and they had taqwa, well then we would have opened for them the blessings from the heavens and the earth. However, they chose not that path. They chose not a path of submission and accepting my will so that I could grant them all these blessings. Instead, they denied. So then the alternative is فأخذناهم, so I took them to task because of that which they used to do. أَفَأَمِنَ أَهْلُ الْقُرَىٰ يَأْتِيَهُمْ بَأْسُنَا بَيَاتًا وَهُمْ نَائِمُونَ. Do the people of the nations and dwelling places and populated areas actually feel safe and they can protect themselves if my harm was to come to them during the night whilst they sleep? Do they really think they can do that? Do they really feel they can protect themselves from that? Obviously a rhetorical question. Clearly they cannot. تلك القرى, these are the various towns and cities and populated areas, نقص عليك, that I'm narrating to you, that we are narrating to you, we're informing you about them, من أنبائها, with respect to the news regarding them. As I mentioned to you before, probably in the last para, maybe the para before now, losing track, but the key point is, it's been mentioned, is that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with news of the past. He came of news of the present, and he came of news in the future. And he's a Nabi, Naba, Amba, information. And this news that he brought, he was not present when these things were taking place, when these events were occurring. So therefore, this was his message for his claim of prophethood. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَتْهُمْ رُسُلُهُمْ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ, and indeed has come to you messengers with proofs. فَمَا كَانُوا لِيُؤْمِنُوا بِمَا كَذَّبُوا مِنْ قَبْلِ, so they would not, فَمَا كَانُوا لِيُؤْمِنُوا, so they did not, but why didn't they believe in that which they denied from before? كَذَلِكَ يَطْبَعُ اللَّهُ عَلَى قُلُوبِ الْكَافِرِينَ, in this way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seals the hearts of the kafirin. وَمَا وَجَدْنَا لِأَكْثَرِهِمْ مِنْ أَحَدٍ وَإِنْ وَجَدْنَا أَكْثَرَهُمْ لَفَاسِقِينَ ثُمَّ بَعَثْنَا مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ مُوسَى بآياتنا إلى فرعون وملئه فظلموا بها فانظر كيف كان عاقبة المفسدين. وقال موسى, so we now turn to the story of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. Indeed we sent after them, after these many nations that have been mentioned, after them we sent Musa alayhi salatu wasalam with our signs, with our miracles, who to Fir'aun and to وملئه and his leaders. فظلموا بها فانظر كيف, look how we dealt with, or the end result was of those people who caused corruption. وقال موسى, and Musa alayhi salatu wasalam said, Ya Fir'aun, O Fir'aun, إني رسول من رب العالمين, indeed I am a messenger from the Rabb, the nurturer of all the worlds and the domains. حقيق على أن لا أقول على الله إلا الحق, it is a fact, it is a reality, it is the truth that I don't say anything against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't speak anything that I'm saying that I'm speaking from Allah I'm speaking on behalf of Allah except the truth. قَدْ جِئْتُكُمْ بِبَيِّنَةٍ, and indeed I've come to you with proof مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ, from your Rabb. فَأَرْسِلْ مَعِيَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيل, so let the people of Israel go and let them come with me. Leave them, allow them to be freed from their bondage of slavery. قَالَ إِن كُنْتَ جِئْتَ بِآيَةٍ فَأْتِ بِهَا إِن كُنْتَ مِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. But again, instead of sort of listening and Pharaoh listening and saying, okay, maybe he's got a fair point here, let me address that. Instead, they ask for the trouble. Okay, bring these miracles, bring this miracle you can perform if you are from the truthful people. They accept the challenge because arrogance leads a person to go in that direction. فَأَلْقَى, so he cast down asahu, his staff. فَإِذَا هِيَ ثُعْبَانٌ مُبِينٌ, and it became a serpent moving around. And then وَنَزَعَ يَدَهُ, he took his hand out from his garment. فَإِذَا هِيَ بَيْضَاءٌ لِلنَّاظِرِينَ, and it became very bright and shining for the onlookers. قَالَ الْمَلَأُ مِنْ قَوْمِ فِرْعَوْنَ, so when the leaders saw that, the council that sits around Fir'aun, they were also very much like him. Instead of them saying, hold on a second here, oh, this man looks like he's genuine. I have never seen a staff turn into the serpent like I saw that in front of my very own eyes. That doesn't look anything but miraculous. Why don't we just do a little bit of research? But no, arrogance, it's always arrogance, fuels the person to make silly errors, make mistakes, heedlessness. So what did they say? They said, Malo, so, a person who is then surrounded by the sorts of people that he is. Fir'aun was like that, so he was surrounded by evil people. Look at the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was surrounded by the Sahaba. So you can see that the person will naturally find himself surrounded by people who are very similar to him. So we see, we hear these many sayings that pious people of the past, what they would say is that whenever they were taking a murid or looking at taking a student, they would say, don't show me the student, show me his friends, show me his colleagues, show me the people he hangs about with. So when the other student would take the sheikh and say, this is who they hang about with, and they would look and he would say then, okay, tell him not to bother coming, they would judge the person by who they hang about with. Because you are who you hang around with, that's the sort of person that you are. So if you want to, because they're a reflection of you. So if you want to be a good person, then hang about with good people, and they will have a good impact on you. So these leaders, the council around Fir'aun, they said to Fir'aun, "Inna hadha la sahirun alim." Oh, this is a magician, but this is not any type of magician. This is a very knowledgeable magician. Yuridu an yukhrijakum min ardikum. And what do they have? When a person is a certain way, then they placed there. I was looking for the right word and it just kind of slipped out of my head. Anyway, I'll hopefully through the discussion. Yeah, I'm one of those people who really gets annoyed when I have a word and it's there and I can see it, but it just won't make its way to my tongue. And now I won't sleep for days, and I won't eat for days. Well, actually, I don't know about that part. But I won't sleep for days trying to find out what this word is. You know, when you cast your view on somebody else. Khair. Can't have been that good word. It'll come soon anyway. So what they do is when a person is of a certain nature, of an evil nature, or then they cast their perception of the world on the other person. So these people were greedy people who always sought power. So when they saw Musa alayhi salam, then they said, oh, he must have the same intentions because these are the same intentions we have. We always have intention to seek power. So Musa alayhi salam must have the same intention. So they mention it, they say, Yuridu ay yukhrijakum min ardikum. This is his aim really, is to take you out of your land. He wants to take over. Musa alayhi salam hasn't even said that. Musa alayhi salam said, let my people go, let Bani Israel go with me and let them come out of slavery and let them be free. At what point did he say that I want to take over your land? But reason is we khair, okay? We do something, we put our view of the world, our worldview, and we think other people have the same worldview of ours. So when we say this person is doing this, we're actually saying that, you know, this is what I'm like, because that's what I would be doing, because you don't know what this person is doing. It's not possible to say, especially when what he's doing is going contrary to what they're saying, because never at one point did he say that I've come. He actually said what he's here for. Anyway, so فَمَاذَا تَعْمُرُونَ. So first they put this seed of doubt inside Pharaoh's head, and then it got him to think. So he turned to his council and said, okay, what do you think we should do? قَالُوا أَرْجِهْ وَأَخَاهُ وَأَرْسِلْ فِي الْمَدَائِنِ حَاشِرِينَ. So what to do is just hold on to him, keep him in suspense, keep him busy, basically. Keep him, Musa alayhi salatu and his brother Harun alayhi salam, busy. And then send messengers, gatherers, out into all the town squares, so they can do the old hear ye, okay, the old town crier. Get the people together and find your best magicians. يَأْتُوكَ بِكُلِّ سَاحِرٍ عَلِيمٍ. So once you gather all the best magicians in your kingdom, you can make him, this is their view, make him look silly, and then he will leave and you will be alright and you will have your power. That idea sat well with the Pharaoh. وَجَاءَ السَّحْرَةُ فِرْعَوْنَ. So the magicians came. قالوا إِنَّا لَنَا لَأَجْرًا إِن كُنَّا نَحْنُ الْغَالِبِينَ. And worldly people will always seek worldly gain. So what they said was, when the magicians arrived, the magicians of Fir'aun, they said, قالوا إِنَّا لَنَا لَأَجْرًا. Indeed, will there be for us a wage, a reward, إِن كُنَّا نَحْنُ الْغَالِبِينَ. If we are ghalibin, if we are victorious, if we win, will there be a wage? Because it's a worldly thing. There's no other ulterior motive. If they really believed in their values, if they really believed in what they wanted to achieve, then they would say, look, you know, this man is an evil man. He's come to destroy it. He's come to challenge our way of life. We're not interested for anything. We're going to do this for the sake of our kingdom. So Pharaoh, step aside. Let's sort this man out. No, it's a world, you know, dunyavi. Give us some money for it. قال نعم, he said, fine, of course you'll get a wage. وَإِنَّكُمْ لَمِنَ الْمُقَرَّبِينَ. But you won't just get a wage. You will be amongst my inner circle. قالوا يا موسى. So once they arrive, the scene is set, you know, trumpets, lots of people are gathering, there's crowds gathering, kids playing, women there talking, men talking, lots of noise, whatever. You can imagine the scene set like a huge fair, okay? Posters have gone out everywhere. Okay, WhatsApp didn't exist, but if it did, there would have WhatsApp messages everywhere. People are all gathered together. This is it. Big showdown. Can you imagine Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, Harun alayhi salatu wasalam, okay, just stood there in this huge situation. Got Pharaoh there, probably sat on a huge throne. Sat there right up there, and he's got his elite leaders around him. And here you have Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, Harun alayhi salatu wasalam, but they had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, don't fear. Don't fear. You'll be successful. So when these magicians and these grand magicians with their big hats, and I assume they had big pointy hats, and I'm just trying to set the scene. Allah knows best what they actually had on. And there they are, and they had their ropes with them, and they had their staffs with them, and they're ready. Okay, they're ready. So they say, قالوا, in great pride and pomp, قالوا يا موسى إما أن تلقي وإما أن نكون نحن الملقين. Either you have the first cast, you throw down your staff, and do your trick. Obviously, according to them, he was a magician, or we will do it. Qala, Musa alayhi salatu wasalam said, Alqu, you do it first. And now they had to do it first, and I'll explain why. فَلَمَّا أَلْقَوْا, so when they threw down, سَحَرُوا أَعْيُنَ النَّاسِ, they deceived the eyes of the people. Meaning it was an illusion, like we see illusionists nowadays. وَاسْتَرْهَبُوهُمْ, and they struck fear into them, because they saw these ropes and staffs starting to move as they perceived them. Obviously on the ground, the ropes weren't doing anything, the staff wasn't doing anything. But the way the trick was, is that when the people were looking, like we see, people doing tricks now where they kind of walk on walls, or they can bend, and they can do all these car tricks and stuff like that. These are all tricks, okay? These are all illusions. That's all they're doing. They're deceiving the eyes. The hand, as I said, the flick of the wrist is faster than the eyes. So they deceived the eyes. سَحَرُوا أَعْيُنَ النَّاسِ, and struck them into fear. وَجَاءُوا بِسِحْرٍ عَظِيمٍ, and they performed a magic feat that nobody had done ever before. There were gasps from the crowd. Wow, amazing, great, fantastic, whatever. The magicians are feeling good about themselves. Pharaoh is feeling good about himself. Good advice from his counsel. Problem solved. Musa alayhi salatu is beat. Harun alayhi salatu is beat. Okay, most likely I'm going to imprison them now. I will keep Bani Israel. Everything is good. I have now proven my point. My people will worship me even more. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى مُوسَى, but that wasn't the way it was going to be. So we revealed to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, an alqi asak, that cast down your staff. فَإِذَا هِيَ تَلْقَفُ مَا يَأْفِكُونَ, and it started to swallow. This turned into a huge serpent, did Musa alayhi salatu's staff. And when it turned into a huge serpent, and if I remember correctly, I'll bring my staff down for tomorrow's recording, because it's a very similar staff to how someone like Musa alayhi salatu and the Anbiya would have. I got it when I climbed Mount Snowdon, and I bought it from the top of Mount Snowdon, and I brought it back down, and inshallah, all being well, this year we'll also be going to Mount Snowdon. But the stuff I'll bring in and I'll show you, and you'll see it has a kind of like a Y point where the shepherd normally places his thumb in between. Anyway, I'll show you inshallah. So this serpent, which actually formed from the staff, it was an illusion. It's in the case of the others, it was an illusion. In this case, Musa alayhi salam turns, his staff turns into a serpent. It's a miracle, bi'idhnillah. And therefore it swallows up everything which they had made. فَوَقَى الْحَقُّ وَبَطَلَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. So the haqq was established and had become batil, what they had done. Now this had turned full circle. This is not what Pharaoh expected. This is not what the leaders, the council had expected when they advised Pharaoh. This was a way to settle this. When they saw Musa alayhi salatu wasalam's staff doing what it did, when they saw Musa alayhi salatu wasalam's hand doing what they did, they thought this is magic. They didn't see beyond, because this is their world. They're looking at everybody through their own vision of the world, not of reality. It's how we perceive the world. It's always our perceptions, and it's our perceptions. And we've got to sort of come out from ourselves, which is an amazing thing to do. And that normally comes about through khalwa, through solitude. It's when we're in solitude, then we cut down the world around us, so that there are no more perceptions. And then we know that what we're actually seeing is us. That's what we're seeing. It's a reflection of our interior on the exterior. But when there's people around us, it confuses us, because we then can't still get this word. We then superimpose. Is that it? No, that's not it. We then, let's just use it for now. We then superimpose. No, it's so bad now. I've actually replaced the real word with this word. Now this is even messing with my head. So let's just delete superimpose. We then, Allahu Akbar. We then pass on. Let's just use the word pass on. Our perceptions, I don't know what I'm talking about now because I've forgotten. We then pass on our perceptions onto the other, we relay it, we play it out on, this is so frustrating, onto the other people. So we get confused. So when a person does something, we think that person is evil, or that person's done something evil to me, or when this happens, whatever. But when we're closed off from the people, and we have these feelings, then we know these feelings are our own feelings, and we've got to somehow deal with these feelings. And the way, obviously, is through zikr wa ghaira. فَغُلِبُوا هُنَالِكَ وَانْقَلَبُوا سَاغِرِينَ. So they were beaten there and then, and they were very remorseful, and felt very low, and felt very small. This is not what was supposed to happen. This has gone against the script. What was supposed to be a moment of celebration, what was supposed to be a moment, the highlight of the career of these magicians, which is performing for Fir'aun himself at his bequest, and to eventually become the inner circle of Fir'aun. From that to now being publicly humiliated by everybody. Their job as magicians kind of went down now, full circle. Their career as a magician was over, because this was a public gathering where everybody had gathered, so he would have to find himself in some far out kingdom that nobody had ever heard of him. Or aren't you the magician who lost to Musa alayhi salam? Okay, that's it. There goes your CV. It's gone. So therefore, this is how they felt. However, there was khair in it for the magicians. And it just shows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can guide whoever he wishes. Here you look at it, these magicians. They were magicians, which to believe in magic is kufr. They were magicians, and they were on the side of a person who claimed he was God. And they'd come to defeat a prophet. So you can't ask for any worse scenario here. Practicing something which is haram, which leads to disbelief in Allah, working for somebody who claims he's a God, and trying to beat a prophet. You can't really put yourself in a more worst case scenario than that. You can't. You look at your own life and let me look at my life and what we've done in the past. Have we done anything like that? No. In fact, you don't even need to think, because you've never come across the Nabi. So that's straight away. It's a non-starter. Working for an enemy of Allah, working for somebody who claims to be God, that's a non-starter. So therefore, was there salvation for these people? Because if there's salvation for these people, then there's salvation for you and me. There's opportunity for repentance for you and me. There's opportunity for greatness for you and me. Let's see. وَأُلْقِيَ السَّحْرَةُ سَاجِدِينَ. The magicians fell down in a position of prostration. The first prostration that they'd ever done for a non-human. Because up until now they're prostrated to Fir'aun. قَالُوا, what did they say? آمَنَّا بِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. So the very same thing which caused Fir'aun to become more arrogant, the very same act which caused Fir'aun to become more arrogant, which caused his leaders to become more arrogant, which made them angry even more, the very same act, the very same incident was a means to give hidayat to these people. So it's not the incident that's the cause of hidayat. Because if the incident was the cause of hidayat, then everybody in that gathering would have got hidayat when they saw that. But instead, a very same incident caused Fir'aun to become more emboldened, more, I'm losing my language today, maybe I need to read a dictionary for a while. He became even more entrenched, that's a better word. He became even more entrenched, don't know why I was talking to my hand then for a second. He became even more entrenched in his view. He became more arrogant in his view by watching this act. Yet the magicians became Muslims. So it's not the act, and we've seen that thread throughout the Quran. It's not the act, it's the hidayat is from Allah. Hidayat is from Allah. They said, we believe in Allah. We believe, and they had to clarify, because up until now, people had also considered Fir'aun to be Rabbil Alameen, na'udhu billah min zalik. So this is why they say, Rabbi Musa wa Harun. Don't be confused. We're not referring to Fir'aun. We're referring to the Rabb that Musa ﷺ claims and that Harun ﷺ claims. This got Fir'aun angry. Qala Fir'aun said, Amantum bihi qabla an adhana lakum. You believe in him, this God, before I've even given you permission? Look at the arrogance of this man. Inna hadha la makrum makartumuhu fil madinati litukhriju minha ahla. But again, shaitan teaches these types of people to do more trickery. Instead of seeing it as hidayat, he turns it around and says, oh, I got your number. I've got you guys sussed. No, I've seen it all now. No wonder they acted like they lost to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. Everybody listen, I've worked it out. No wonder they look like they lost. What they were doing here is la makrum makartumuhu. That this was a makr, this was a plot and a plan. Makartumuhu, that they all sat together. So these are Musa's friends, alayhi salatu wasalam. These magicians aren't trying to beat him, they're losing intentionally, and then when they lose, they're then going to prostrate to Islam, prostrate to their Rabb, accept Islam, so that all of you not accept Islam. But he didn't say that. Instead he said, what did he say? لِتُخْرِجُوا مِنْهَا أَهْلَهَا. So he could take over your lands. Because if he had said so that you accept Islam, they would have said, okay, if we've got a choice, we can either accept their God or we can accept you as God. We should have free to choose. But it's not about that, you see. It's never been about that. Well, it is about that, but people don't want to discuss it like that. So he said that he had to mention something that they would value more. Because sadly, we don't value our beliefs more. We value our material things more. So that's why he needed a motivation. He needed something. He needed to, press their buttons. And the way he pressed their buttons was saying, لِتُخْرِجُوا مِنْهَا أَهْلَهَا فَسَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ. Look how he's turned it around. Look how he turned it around. And this is what people do when they have these vile habits and whatever. They'll turn these situations around. لَوْ قَطِّعَنَّ أَيْدِيَكُمْ. I'm going to cut your hands. وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ. I'm going to cut your feet. مِنْ خِلَافٍ. From opposite sides. ثُمَّ لَأُصَلِّبَنَّكُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. And then I will crucify every single one of you, the magicians. قَالُوا إِنَّا إِلَىٰ رَبِّنَا مُنْقَلِبُونَ. They said, you can do what you like to us. We are returning to our Rabb. وَمَا تَنْقِمُ مِنَّا إِلَّا أَنْ آمَنَ بِآيَاتِ رَبِّنَا لَمَّا جَاءَتْنَا. And you are not taking vengeance from us, except that we believed in the miracles of our Rabb when they came to us. And then they turned to Allah. Look how quickly, there is salvation for everybody. That's the point that I'm trying to make here. Opposed a Nabi, believed a man to be a god, performed magic, yet in an instant, make repentance, make dua, and they hadn't prayed a single prayer. They only made one sajda, probably never gave any sadaqah, they didn't give any charity, probably didn't do any fast, whatever, but just this one turn. رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَتَوَفَّنَا مُسْلِمِينَ. Oh Allah, we expect what's coming to us now. We know what's coming to us now. We know the type of person Pharaoh is. He will carry out what he says he's going to do. He's going to cut our right hand. He's going to cut our left foot. He's then going to crucify us whilst we're alive by punching nails through our wrists and punching nails through our ankles, and we will eventually drown on our own blood. That's going to happen. But we don't ask for salvation from this. We don't ask for a quick death. All we ask, Ya Allah, is afrigh alayna sabra, is give us patience, Ya Allah, so that we can bear it for you. Because bearing any harm for your sake is highly rewarded. And we want the reward, Ya Allah. We will bear with this with patience. We don't want this to be, we don't want a quick death. We don't want this to be gone from us. We want us to feel this, but give us sabr because we are weak. وَتَوَفَّنَا مُسْلِمِينَ. And when you do take our souls, then take our souls when we are submitters. وَقَالَ الْمَلَأُ مِنْ قَوْمِ فِرْعَوْنَ أَتَذْرُ مُوسَى وَقَوْمَهُ لِيُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَيَذَرَكَ وَآلِهَتَكَ. Again, the leaders were there to mess about with Pharaoh's head. That's why you have to be very careful who you have as your counsel, who you have as your wazir, as your advisors. Because if you've got the wrong type of people, they're going to advise you in the wrong way. They're going to press your buttons and get you to do things which you don't want to do. Whereas good advisor will always be advising you good. So what did they do? Did they say, hold on a second here, Pharaoh, I think we've gone a bit too far. What do you mean you're going to kill all your magicians? Whoa, look, if they've believed, they're the magicians. They know what magic is. For crying out loud, that's their day job. They're experts in magic. And if they're saying this is not magic, then who are you, Pharaoh, to challenge that? I think we should take a step back and accept what Musa alayhi salam is saying. Instead, no. What did they say? They said, Mala'u min qawmi Fir'aun. Are you going to leave Musa? Are you going to leave Musa and his people? So they're going to just wander around corrupting people? This is corruption. Okay, they're going to corrupt. And then, they're going to leave you and they're going to leave your God? Is this what you want? So obviously Pharaoh is now angry because they're pressing his buttons, winding him up, so he's even more angry. So he says, سَنُقَتِّلُ أَبْنَاءَهُم. I'm going to kill their boys, their males. وَنَسْتَحْيِي نِسَاءَهُم. And I'm going to let their women live. وَإِنَّا فَوْقَهُمْ قَاهِرُونَ. And we are still dominant and powerful over them. قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ. So Musa alayhi salam turned to his people. Why? The people were weak. The people did not have ability to stand up against Pharaoh. They could not fight him. He said, إِسْتَعِينُوا بِاللَّهِ وَاصْبِرُوا. Seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be patient. Be patient. And this is what the community, the Muslim community at the time of weakness is to seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be patient and pray salah. That is the correct way. There is no third way where you see arguments being made by people that, look, we're allowed for guerrilla war tactics, or we're allowed to carry out sort of suicide attacks, or we're allowed to do these sorts of things because of the fact that this is permissible for us. There is, and there are only two positions to adopt for Muslims One is, if they're in a position of power and they have the capability to go to war, then they should go to war bearing all the rules of war. And you'll find that in many of my other videos that I've discussed, especially among Muslim minorities, or some of the texts that I've written. Read them, please. You'll see that in great detail. This is not really the lecture series to discuss that. Or, if Muslims do not have the power, then they must wait and be patient. They must wait and be patient. There is no middle way forward there. So he says, Pharaoh says, قَالُوا أُوذِينَا مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ تَأْتِيَنَا وَمِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جِئْتَنَا, that you did trouble us from before, meaning when the prophecy came that the soothsayer said to Pharaoh that a boy will be born and this boy will destroy your kingdom. And it was at that point that he then went and sent his soldiers everywhere and said, right, go, and there's a child that's going to be born soon, a boy that's going to be born soon amongst the Israelites, the Bani Israel, and I want you to kill every single male child and do not let a male child live. It was at that time that Musa alayhi salam's mother was inspired. So she took her child and made a basket, which then eventually became the so-called Moses basket, which is a thatched basket, and placed her child inside and pushed him gently down the river Nile and told his sister that, look, you follow your brother, see where he lands, see who picks him up. And his mother went back inside. So when the soldiers came and said, you know, you have a son, your son's been born, and she said, no, I have no child, you can look. So they turned the house inside out, didn't find no boy, and then they went, whilst Musa alayhi salam is slowly drifting around the Nile and his sister's following. And it so happens it gets stuck just outside where Pharaoh and his wife are having a picnic. And one of the slaves in the area sees the basket, pulls the basket out and says, oh master, we have found a child. So when they brought the child over, immediately the wife of Pharaoh looked at this child, and she immediately endeared to her. And she loved this child, and she had no children of her own. And she was a weakness for Pharaoh because of his love for his wife. So she said, I want to keep this child. And Pharaoh was always suspicious. He was always suspicious that, you know, this child, who is this child? Could he be that child? Could he be from the Bani Israel? Must be. And if he is he the one that's going to destroy me? So he was raised inside the house of Pharaoh. He was raised by the enemy of Allah. And there's wisdom in that as well. And if I haven't told you that wisdom by the time I reach the 30th para, then inshallah I will do. But I will leave it because I'm sure there will be stories further ahead of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. And we have plenty to do in the short time that we have. Yes, definitely plenty to do. So let's just leave that there. وَلَقَدْ أَخَذْنَا عَلَى فِرْعَوْنَ بِالسِّنِّينَ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَذَّكَّرُونَ. And indeed we took to task Pharaoh and the family and the people of Pharaoh for years of drought and a reduction in their crops, so that would reflect. Because whenever harm comes, and we've seen that whenever a harm comes, it's supposed to wake people up. It's supposed to make people understand that, hold on a second here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not pleased with me. Why are things happening in my life? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not pleased with me. Okay, so what should I do? Should I carry on heedlessly like I was before? No. Stop. Take a reality check. What am I doing wrong? Am I praying? No, I'm not. Okay. Am I behaving in the way a Muslim should behave? No, I'm not. Am I doing that? No, I'm not doing that. Am I doing that? Yes, I am. Should I be doing that? No. And then rectify. And rectify, and the problems will disappear with time. And even if they don't disappear, you'll be able to deal with them better. فإذا جاءتهم الحسنة قالوا لنا هذه وإن تصبهم سيئة يطيروا بموسى ومن معه. And whenever a good thing would happen to them, they said, oh, that's because of us. Okay, we've managed to achieve that greatness. And when some evil would befall them, they would say, oh, these are the evil omens of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, and those people, they're a bad omen. The gods are not pleased with us because of their presence here. And they're much talked about this. And we فَأَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمُ الطُّوفَانِ, so we sent the flood against them, وَالْجَرَادِ, the locusts against them, وَالْقُمَّلِ, the lice, وَالضَّفَادِعِ, the frogs, وَالدَّمْ, and the blood when the river Nile turned red. Ayat and mufassalat, clear manifest signs that wake up. How much more apparent do you want this to be? فَاسْتَكْبَرُوا, but every single time, instead of lowering their face, instead of placing their face on the ground, instead of showing that, yes Allah, we are nothing without you, fastakbaru, they became arrogant each time. وَكَانُوا قَوْمًا مُجْرِمِينَ, we portray, that's the word, isn't it? Portray. We portray our view of the world onto somebody else. Yes, portray, it's there, alhamdulillah. وَلَمَّا وَقَعَ عَلَيْهِمُ الرِّجْسُ, قالوا يا موسى ادع لنا ربك بما عهد عندك. And whenever this punishment would befall them, whether it was the frogs, the locusts, the lice, the flood, the blood, whatever, whenever it would befall them, they would say, oh Musa, call towards your Rabb by what he's promised you. لَإِن كَشَفْتَ عَنَّا الرِّجْسَ, that if he was to move this away from us, this one, لَنُؤْمِنَنَّ لَكَ, we'll believe in you, وَلَنُرْسِلَنَّ مَعَكَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيل, and we will send the Bani Israel with you. فَلَمَّا كَشَفْنَا عَنْهُمُ الرِّجْسَ, so whenever Musa alayhi salam made dua, and Allah SWT removed that harm, whether it was the locust, the flood, the lice, the frogs, the blood, the rest of it, when he would remove that from them, okay, إِلَى أَجَلٍ hum balighuhu idha hum yankuthun, then they would break their promise, they would go back to their ways. And we do the same thing. Do we not do the same thing? Some difficulty befalls us, so we say, Ya Allah, get us out of this situation, Ya Allah. I swear I will go straight, I'll pray salah, I'll do parda, I'll keep my beard, depending on whichever gender you are. I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll go hajj this year, I'll do umrah, I'm going to pray regularly, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You know, it goes on and on and on. A massive list. Okay? And Allah SWT removes that from us. That parishani, that difficulty, it disappears. So do we then say shukr to Allah? Ya Allah, shukran, alhamdulillah, I'm going to now do as I said. No, we break our promise. And I do, as a joke, mention the tree and the man that stuck at the top of the tree, which I mentioned to my students. So again, please remind me about the man on the tree. Not going to mention it today because we are short of time and I have still much to say, and the para is much to be prayed, and we are 10-15 or so minutes away from our hour. So you can see the same thing again and again and again. And then we see this crossing the sea. وَجَاوَزْنَا بِبَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ الْبَحْرَ فَأَتَوْا عَلَىٰ قَوْمٍ يَعْكُفُونَ عَلَىٰ أَصْنَامٍ لَهُمْ قَالُوا يَا Musa. So what did they do? What did the people, the Bani Israel, for crying out loud? You were in bondage, slavery, you got taken out, that you got saved. So they saw this idol and the people around this idol. So they all said, oh Musa alayhi salam, make for us a God like this so that we can worship him. So Musa alayhi salam said, قَالَ إِنَّكُمْ قَوْمٌ تَجْهَلُونَ. How inelegant people, and I mentioned to you before, you saw the people around Isa alayhi salam. What did the people around Isa alayhi salam say? Can your God send down a dastakhan, a banquet from the heavens? Here you see what the followers of Musa alayhi salam are asking Musa alayhi salam. And then you look at the Sahaba, and you see no example of this whatsoever. You see the Sahaba always at the side of the Prophet ﷺ at all times. They had to be, because the religion that Rasulullah ﷺ brought, which was the religion of the messengers who came before, was to be spread far and wide. قَالَ أَغَيْرَ اللَّهِ أَبْغِيكُمْ إِلَهًا. Are you asking for other than Allah as a God? وَهُوَ فَضَّلَكُمْ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ, and He's chosen you over all the other people. وَإِذْ أَنْجَيْنَاكُمْ مِنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ, and we saved you from the people of Fir'aun. يَسُومُونَكُمْ سُوءَ الْعَذَابِ, we were punishing you with a very painful punishment. يُقَتِّلُونَ أَبْنَاءَكُمْ وَيَسْتَحْيُونَ نِسَاءَكُمْ, they were killing your sons and leaving your daughters to stay alive. وَفِي ذَلِكُمْ بَلَاءٌ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ عَظِيمٌ, and this is a great trial and test for you. وَوَعَدْنَا مُوسَى 30 لَيْلَةً, and we promised and we fixed for Musa alayhi salam 30 days. وَأَتْمَمْنَا بِعَشْرٍ, and then we added 10 more. فَتَمَّ مِيقَاتُ رَبِّهِ, so when he had, this term was set with his Rabb for 40 nights, so he was going to go to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for 40 nights. So as he was leaving, وَقَالَ Musa, and Musa alayhi salam said to his brother Harun, أُخْلُفْنِي فِي قَوْمِي, lead in my absence my people. وَأَصْلِحْ, and do good. وَلَا تَتَّ, don't try to, just try to always do good. Find reconciliation, find ways to keep my people together. وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ سَبِيلَ الْمُفْسِدِينَ, and don't follow the paths of those of the mufsideen. وَلَمَّا جَاءَ مُوسَى لِمِيقَاتِنَا, so when Musa alayhi salam left Harun alayhi salam to be in charge of his the people that were left at the bottom, at the foot of the mountain, and Musa alayhi salam went for his appointment, وَكَلَّمَهُ رَبُّهُ, and Allah spoke to him. قَالَ رَبِّ أَرِنِي أَنْظُرْ إِلَيْكَ, he then said, oh Rabb, Arini, show me how I could look to you. قَالَ لَن تَرَانِي, you will not be able to see me. وَلَكِنْ انظُرْ إِلَى الْجَبَلِ, but look towards the mountain. فَإِنِ اسْتَقَرَّ مَكَانَهُ, if it stays in its place, فَسَوْفَ تَرَانِي, then you will be able to see me. فَلَمَّا تَجَلَّى رَبُّهُ لِلْجَبَلِ, but when the the glory was revealed of his Rabb to the mountain, جَعَلُوا دَكًّا, the mountain exploded into tiny small pieces. وَخَرَّ مُوسَى صَاعِقًا, and Musa alayhi fainted. فَلَمَّا أَفَاقَ, so when he came round, قَالَ سُبْحَانَكَ, oh glory be to you Allah, تُبْتُ إِلَيْكَ, I repent to you, وَأَنَا أَوْلَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, I'm the first of the believers. قَالَ يَا مُوسَى إِنِّي اسْتَفَيْتُكَ عَلَى النَّاسِ بِرِسَالَاتِي وَبِكَلَامِي, O Musa alayhi, I've chosen you out of all the people to pass my messages to you and my speech to you. فَخُذْ مَا أَتَيْتُكَ وَكُن مِنَ الشَّاكِرِينَ, so take what I've given you and be from those who are grateful. وَكَتَبْنَا لَهُ فِي الْأَلْوَاحِ, so we wrote for him on the tablets, مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ, everything, مَوْعِظَةً, as a warning, and تَفْصِيلًا, in great detail, لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ, so these are the commandments as we hear. فَخُذْهَا بِقُوَّةٍ, so take them and hold on to them. وَأْمُرْ قَوْمَكَ, and enjoin and order your people, يَأْخُذُوا, to also take it بِأَحْسَنِهَا. سَأُرِيكُمْ دَارَ الْفَاسِقِينَ سَأَصْرِفُ عَنْ آيَاتِ الَّذِينَ يَتَكَبَّرُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ وَإِنْ يَرَوْا كُلَّ آيَةٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَا وَإِنْ يَرَوْا سَبِيلَ الرُّشْدِ لَا يَتَّخِذُوهُ سَبِيلًا وَإِنْ يَرَوْا سَبِيلَ الْغَيِّ يَتَّخِذُوهُ سَبِيلًا ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ كَذَبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَكَانُوا عَنْهَا غَافِلِينَ وَالَّذِينَ كَذَبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَلِقَاءِ الْآخِرَةِ حَبِطَتْ أَعْمَالُهُمْ هَلْ يُجْزَوْنَ إِلَّا مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. So we carry on. وَاتَّخَذَ قَوْمُ, in his absence, وَاتَّخَذَ قَوْمُ مُوسَى مِنْ بَعْدِهِ مِنْ حُلِّيِّهِمْ, so what did they do? They gathered together their most valued item, which was the necklaces and the jewelry which they were borrowing from the Pharaoh and his people, and because they didn't have any gold of their own, so they borrowed these. So the women took off their gold, their bangles, their rings, their earrings, and the necklaces, put it all together, melted it down, and they made it into a shape of a calf. Samiri had taught them how to do this. He had taken some of the soil which the horse that Jibreel had come down upon, it was sort of shining, so he'd taken that and he'd cast that on top of the calf, and the calf was making a sound. Lahu khuwar. Alam yaro annahu la yukallimuhum wa la yahdihim sabila. Ittakhadhu wa kanu zalimin. وَلَمَّا سُقِطَ فِي أَيْدِيهِمْ وَرَأُوا أَنَّهُمْ قَدْ ضَلُّوا, when they realized obviously they'd been fooled, قَالُوا لَإِنْ لَمْ يَرْحَمْنَا رَبُّنَا وَيَغْفِرْ لَنَا لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. So you can see again and again that these people left the path that Musa brought him. وَلَمَّا رَجَعَ مُوسَى إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ, so when Musa came to his people, غَضْبَان, he was angry at the same time, but he was also sad at the same time, mixed emotions. Anger because what's going on? For crying out loud, look what situation you're in, you got taken out of there, you've got your freedom, why are you doing this for? And also grief because he felt sad for them. He knew that they'd been misguided. He knew that they'd been tricked and fooled, and he felt sad for them in the same way. قال بئس ما خلفتموني من بعدي عجلتم أمر ربكم. Could you not wait? Could you not wait 40 days? The accusations you made. وَأَلْقَى الْأَلْوَاحَ, and he threw the tablets at them, and he went to his brother. وَأَخَذَ بِرَأْسِ أَخِيهِ يَجُرُّهُ بِهِ, dragging his brother by the hair. قال ابن or the son of my mother. إِنَّ الْقَوْمَ اسْتَضْعَفُونِي وَكَادُوا يَقْتُلُونَ. This is what his response was, Harun alayhi salatu, that indeed the people considered me to be weak and they plotted to kill me. فَلَا تُشْمِتْ بِيَ الْأَعْدَاءَ وَلَا تَجْعَلْنِي مَعَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. So obviously when Musa alayhi salatu realized that it was beyond Harun's ability to be able to contain them, he said, قَالَ رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِأَخِي, Oh Allah, forgive me and my brother, وَأَدْخِلْنَا فِي رَحْمَتِكَ, and enter us into your mercy, وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. So you can see that they took this calf as a deity and worshipped it, and as a result they would have to be punished likewise. And okay, goodness me, right, I will really need to pick up pace. So with the 5-6 minutes in time left, I'm just going to sort of pick up a few ayats because this surah needs to finish, and obviously the next surah needs to be started and introduce. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ السَّاعَةِ أَيَّانَ مُرْسَاهَا, they ask you regarding the final hour, when will it be? قُلْ إِنَّمَا إِلْمُهَا عِنْدَ رَبِّي, its knowledge is only with my Rabb. No one will know it. لَا يُجَلِّيهَا لِوَقْتِهَا إِلَّا هُ, no one can manifest its time except him. ثَقُلَتْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, it is heavy on the heavens and the earth. لَا تَأْتِيكُمْ إِلَّا بَغْتَةً, it won't come to you except all of a sudden. So be ready for it whatever time it comes to you. إِنْ أَنَا إِلَّا نَذِيرٌ وَبَشِيرٌ لِقَوْمٍ يُؤْمِنُونَ, I am only a warner and a glad tidal for the believing people. That's all I come for, to give you that warning. So we have Surah Al-A'raf finished there, and then we have Surah Al-Anfal, which is the spoils of war. And for other surahs, we've had to wait some time before the actual name that the surah has got, its topic is discussed. Whereas here we see it very early on, in fact in the first ayat. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَنْفَالِ. They ask you regarding the spoils of war. قُلِ الْأَنْفَالِ لِلَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ. Say the spoils of war for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. Excuse me. So it mentions in great detail battle in particular at the early sort of stages, and how certain events which took place at that particular time. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu atiu. We're on page 249 for those who are following. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu atiu Allah wa rasulahu wa la tawallu anhu wa antum tasma'un wa la takunu kalladhina qalu sami'na wa hum la yasma'un. Don't be like those people who say, oh, we're listening, whereas they don't listen. Hearing and listening are two different things. People hear things but they don't listen to things. Listening is an actual engaging practice. Hearing is an unintentional action. It's something which occurs without any thought going into it. Listening requires thought. Two different things. So whenever we are reciting the Quran, we should be listening to it, not hearing it. Two different things. That doesn't mean we can't hear the Quran. Of course we can. We can listen, have it on and relax and just hear it, not a problem. But listening means really reflecting and taking on board what is being said. Inna sharra ad-dawwabi inda Allahi summul bukmu alladhi la ya'qilun. Indeed, the worst of the creatures, according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the deaf, the blind and dumb, the deaf and the dumb, alladhina la ya'qilun, which has no sense. Meaning the human that's not listening, the human who's got the capacity to listen, the human that has the capacity to understand and chooses not to do so. وَلَوْ عَلِمَ اللَّهُ فِيهِمْ خَيْرًا لَأَسْمَعَهُم. However, Allah SWT saw good in them, He would have given them the ability to listen. So when you're not doing good deeds, then you should fear, you should cry. Why? Because why is Allah SWT not giving you the ability to do so? Why is He making it easy for you to commit sins but not making it easy for you to do good deeds? That question should be at the tip of your tongue, especially in this month. Because life is short, it's not forever, and we should be focusing on this. وَلَوْ أَسْمَعُهُمْ لَتَوَلَّوْا وَهُمْ مُعْرِضُونَ وَتَوَلَّوْا وَهُمْ مُعْرِضُونَ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اسْتَجِيبُوا لِلَّهِ وَلِلرَّسُولِ إِذَا دَعَاكُمْ لِمَا يُحْيِيكُمْ. So again, listen to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and listen to His Messenger. And then, as has been practice, we'll just finish off with the last few lines on this para before we get there to the 10th para, insha'Allah ta'ala. And we see here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِلَى جَهَنَّمَ يُحْشَرُونَ لِيَمِيزَ اللَّهُ الْخَبِيثَ مِنَ الطَّيِّبِ وَيَجْعَلَ الْخَبِيثَ بَعْدَهُ عَلَى بَعْدٍ فَيَرْكُمَهُ جَمِيعًا فَيَجْعَلُهُ فِي جَهَنَّمَ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. In this world, good people, bad people are mixed. We can live in the same house. There could be pious, decent people, and there could be bad people all living within the same house, from the same family, in the same workplace, on the same street. But in the hereafter, that does not happen. The khabith and the tayyib are separated. They are separated and they're held in different groups. So don't assume where you are now naturally means that's where you'll be in the hereafter. We see, for example, Lut alayhi salatu wasalam's wife living in the same house as him, being in a certain situation. Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam's father being in a certain situation. We see that. So it doesn't necessarily mean just because a person is living in a particular environment and with a particular family that that's where they will be and that's where they will be safe. It doesn't mean because the separation does not happen in this world, the separation happens in the hereafter. And the last verse, which is وَإِن تَوَلُّوا فَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ مَوْلَاكُمْ. And if you turn and know that indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your Mawla, He is your master, He is your protector, and ni'mal Mawla wa ni'mal Nasir, and He is the best of protectors, He is the best of guardians, and He is the best of helpers. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَأَنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمُسَهُ وللرسول ولذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل إن كنتم آمنتم بالله وما أنزلنا على عبدنا يوم الفرقان يوم التقى الجمعان والله على كل شيء قدير. And as this surah is Surah Al-Anfal, and it is regarding the spoils of war, then para 10 inshallah ta'ala, which we will share with you tomorrow, is referring to that very same thing, that when you have the war, spoils of war, then what should you do? How should it be separated? who should it be given to? So I hope you can join me again for Ramadan Recital Reminder number 10, which will take place tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
ليلة القدر التي نزلت بها آيات تذكرة لذي الألباب يا صائما للشهر محتسبا له بشراك مغفرة بغير حساب بشراك مغفرة بغير حساب.